Hi everybody, and welcome to the Taurus 2020 January reading. If you're new to the channel, my name is Sarah. I have Reiki'd the traditional Rider-Waite Tarot deck, and using them with intuitive astrology, I will read a forecast for you, Taurus friends, for January 2020. I have also drawn one, but two cards came out because you're special, Taurus, from the Denise Lynn Soul Coaching deck to show what you're bringing forward from 2019 into 2020. And don't worry, it's good stuff, okay? And that being said, this reading may not actually work for you. It may not resonate because there are thousands and thousands of Taurus natives out there. And obviously, it's not going to fit everyone. And that's okay. No worries, pass it on by, and I hope you find what you're looking for. So as I said, I Reiki'd this deck and drew two cards from what you're going to be bringing forward. And they were really good cards. They are passion and impeccability. Taurus has been going through a lot, since 2015 anyway. Taurus has had some very up and down years. Not quite heartbreak, but almost. You've had struggles and then things have got better, and then it kind of feels like you ended right back up where you were. So it's been very trying, and the lessons have been very difficult. You love stability and you don't like it when things are off kilter and out of balance. So it's been really hard on you, probably harder on you than it had your other family members. So we look at these two cards, and of course, passion and impeccability are pretty straightforward, aren't they? You have a passion and a zest for life, but sometimes you forget this. You get so caught up in day-to-day life that you don't take care of yourself, and you put off doing things that you enjoy, or you put off taking care of yourself. This card is about finding your passion. And hopefully you did. You discovered it or rediscovered it in 2019. And you're going to be bringing that forward into 2020, which is really good, really good. And the other card is impeccability. And if you're not familiar with that word, impeccability means focus and intention that are in sync with your actions. You're following through on what you said you're going to do. You're making those plans and you're following through on them. You're taking action. That means you are doing what you're saying. You are completing tasks. You set an intention, whether it's by saying you would meet someone for lunch or you would pay a bill on time, and you actually follow through on it. So being impeccable is the best thing that we can strive for. That means we keep our word, we manifest with clarity, and people can depend on us and count on us. So it's really important. Impeccability is something really important in the magical and spiritual community too. You bringing this forward into 2020 is wonderful. That is really going to shape the month and by default the entire year. Let's look at the cards. For week 1, in the upright position, the 10 of Pentacles. And anytime we see Pentacles, we know what? That they refer to money and wealth. This card is really, really awesome. It is unexpected windfalls, lump sum payout, something like that. It can also signify an inheritance or just money coming out of the blue, out of unexpected sources. And also it could indicate that you're getting ready to buy a home. It's definitely finances coming together. And as you can see in the card, it's about happiness as a family too. So it's not just one person in your family is getting the money and everybody else is just kind of like, what about me? It really impacts the entire family, and it represents a solid foundation, security for all areas of your life. Yes, we're not just looking at material stuff though. We're looking at happiness with maybe where you are in your spiritual path. Your health is getting better, it's improving, and you could find that you're having that renewed zest for life, especially now that you're bringing your passion forward into the next year. So this is a really good start to the first week. And let's look at the qualifier for this for a little bit more information. And it is the King of Swords. And this card is about structure, routine, and being very logical, being very methodical, planning out what you want to happen, which is what we know from watching the other videos about what we can expect for 2020. If you're going to be successful, this is what it's going to take. It's going to take a budget, it's going to take a plan, and it's going to take a goal. Now you can dream big, the bigger the better, because you have the ability to manifest it more so than you probably have in the last decade combined. This is going to be a really good time for you, but you just have to stay practical. And this card is basically saying you've been doing that. You've been sticking to your budget, you have a plan, and things are working out. So the first week looks really, really good for you, Taurus. The second week, we have the Six of Swords and the Queen of Wands. So this is a really interesting card. I particularly read this card as a long trip, and usually it's over waters. It doesn't necessarily have to be a cruise, but it could be a cruise, but it's definitely a bigger trip than just, a weekend trip to the city kind of thing. This is a big, big trip, and it could also signify that you're moving on and things are calming down in your life. You're letting go of some worries you're having, or maybe some hardships. Obviously, if you are in a position to take a big trip, and perhaps maybe even a trip overseas, then money has calmed down. So we can definitely read that into it as well. Traveling, going on holiday, and also maybe planning a trip. So if you're not actually going in the first or the second week of January, it could be that you've decided that you're going to take this trip and that you're booking it this week. So let's look at the qualifier. The Queen of Cups is about being strong, courageous, passionate, and fun. It's about taking chances, it's about motherhood, it's about just really going and doing, but it's also about working and being stressed too. So yeah, but generally it's a good card about being confident and taking control. So I would say yes, you have made up your mind to travel some in the second week of January, and you're actually doing it. You're either physically traveling or you're putting the trip together in a way that's going to work out later in 2020. So this is, yeah. So if you've been wondering about when you actually should take a major trip, I would suggest that you get a personal detailed reading and not generally go by this. All right. And you can find me at Serenity. I'll put the link up in the description box, and also it is at the end of the video too, I think. So things are going really good. What do we see happening the third week of January? We see more Pentacle cards. Now this is a really interesting card too. I probably say that about every card. Every card's really interesting, but I do think they're very interesting. I have been working with tarot since I was very young, and I have been reading cards since I was 12 years old. Can you believe that? I was getting paid at 12 to read cards. Yeah. And I continuously learn more and see more miracles with the cards. It's not something that's ever static. You just keep learning. The more you do, the more people you read for, the more situations you see come up. So, okay, honestly, I do believe all the cards are really interesting. So the Seven of Pentacles means basically you have a lot of projects going, and a lot of them are going to work out, but some of them probably won't. But that's okay, because the ones that do come forward are meant to be. And that kind of also goes along with January and all of 2020. We're going to have so many opportunities presented to us that it's going to be overwhelming at times. Which do you take and which do you pass on? The difference with this is something that you inherently started. This was a seed you planted, as opposed to just opportunity coming out of the blue. And you have a lot of different things happening, and it looks like the best ones are going to come forward for you. But that makes sense because you've been working hard on them, and then soon they're going to come forward and pay off. When we look at the qualifier with this card, we see Judgment. So I would take that in connection with this card to mean that yes, you are definitely leading that impeccable life. You're awakening and you're leveling up with your own spiritual abilities, able to see a bigger picture, not just maybe look at what's best for you, but look at what's best for your family, look at what's best for your friends, maybe even your community. Sometimes in doing that, we have to make decisions that maybe aren't what we want, even though we know what's best for other people sometimes doesn't jive with what we want. It's kind of like being a parent, sometimes you have to do things maybe you personally don't want to do, but it's best for the children, right? So it's kind of like that. You're making good judgments, you're making good decisions, and so things are coming forward. It could also mean something is going on legally, and if that is the case, it will definitely fall in your favor, I would say, based on the other cards around it. Okay, so the end of the month. What do we see happening on the fourth week of January for Taurus? Well, we have a really good card, the Hanged Man, and then we also have the Knight of Swords. When we look at the Hanged Man, we see that he is hanging upside down by his foot. He is not being hung as in the gallows, right? So this is a card about spiritual enlightenment. It's about finding your direction. It's about opening up and letting go, but it's also about having that awakening happen, having that information pour into you, whether it's intuitively or whether you're studying, and being able to access it. It is possible that you're feeling trapped and you need to go do something, but I generally always see this card in readings mean it's a spiritual awakening. And this card generally represents Odin. So it looks like all the studying, all the work is about to pay off with some spiritual enlightenment, with some answers to questions you've been seeking. The knowledge will help you in all areas of your life. The qualifier for this card is the Knight of Swords. And we know anytime we have a knight, it of course means the coming and going of a matter that's very interesting to you. The difference with this one, with this being a sword card, of course, is it's about very quickly jumping in there, seizing the moment, taking those opportunities that are presented to you. And it can also mean that you're being impatient. You're ready for them to happen now. And if we look at this in relation to the spiritual enlightenment, that makes perfect sense too. To maybe get to the point where you're feeling better about yourself, you're feeling better about your spiritual path, you feel like things are starting to progress, you've got money for this trip, but it took forever. And I think that's pretty normal. I think we all kind of get impatient that things don't happen faster, especially when we see stuff on social media where it looks like one day a person opens an account and the next day, they won an Oscar and a recording contract and they're living in a mansion. It actually doesn't really work that way. I mean, it may for a very few people, but for most people, everything takes time and a process. Now, don't get me wrong, you can manifest anything you want. That's not the problem. The problem with manifestation is we generally stop it with our fears or our false thinking. So it looks like you've been working really hard to clear some of that as well. While you're somewhat impatient for things to go, it looks like everything is moving in the right direction. You're bringing good stuff forward from 2019, not baggage, which is awesome. The weeks of January look like they flow well together. Who doesn't want to take a trip? Yeah, come on. First, it looks like you're going to have a wonderful January, and guess what? You deserve it. You've been working hard, you've been planning, and it's your turn now. You get to have some fun. So I hope you found this reading helpful. If you would like a personal reading or to talk more about this reading, you can find me at Serenity. And as always, thank you guys for subscribing and liking the video. I'll see you for the next one. Reiki blessings.